When we think of woodworking, we often picture large, robust projects, tables, chairs, cabinets. But today, I want to take you on a different journey. One that's more intimate, more personal. Today, we're going to turn a simple piece of reclaimed wood into something beautiful, a hand-carved flower pot, or as we say in my workshop, a fuldani. You see, for me, woodworking is more than just cutting and shaping wood. It's about creating something that tells a story. A piece of art that has meaning, not just function. It's about working with your hands, using natural materials, and transforming them into something that carries a little bit of your soul with it. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just a flower pot, right? But when you look at it, when you truly see it, it's so much more than that. It's an opportunity to connect with nature, to bring the outdoors in, and to add a touch of handcrafted elegance to any space. I believe that every piece of wood has its own story to tell. Every grain, every knot, every imperfection, it all comes together to form something that has a history, a life of its own. Today, we're working with reclaimed teak, a wood that's rich with texture and history. It has a warmth and depth to it that you just can't replicate with newer, mass-produced wood. This teak, like many things in life, has lived through its own journey. It has seen time pass, weathered storms, and now it's ready for a new purpose. A fuldani that will hold life in the form of vibrant flowers, each bloom adding to the story that this wood will carry forward. So, where do we begin? Well, the first step in any woodworking project is selecting the right piece of wood. The right wood sets the foundation for everything that comes next. I carefully inspect this piece of reclaimed teak, looking for a section with minimal imperfections and a beautiful grain pattern. As I feel the surface, I can already imagine the potential of this wood, how it will look once it's shaped, sanded, and finished. With a piece like this, I start by measuring and sketching the design directly onto the wood. Today's design is a classic rounded flower pot. The pot will be about 10 inches tall and 12 inches wide, the perfect size for indoor plants like orchids or succulents. I want the shape to have a soft taper where it slightly narrows at the bottom, creating a subtle, elegant curve that will make it stand out as a centerpiece. Once the design is sketched out, I move on to the first cut. This is where things start to take shape. I grab my saw and begin to carefully cut along the lines. The sound of the saw cutting through the wood is rhythmic, almost meditative. As I make each cut, I feel the wood start to give way to my vision. The lines are clean, but I make sure to keep them light and fluid, not too rigid, because I want the final piece to have an organic, natural feel to it. It's not just about cutting straight lines, it's about shaping the wood with intention. I want each cut to contribute to the overall design, to the final outcome, and most importantly, I want the pot to feel alive, as if it grew from the very wood itself. With the basic shape cut out, it's time for shaping. This is where the real artistry comes into play. I grab my chisel set and start to work on refining the shape. The edges are still rough and the curves are not as pronounced as I want them to be. Carefully, I start to remove small bits of wood, bringing the piece closer to its final form. I focus on creating smooth, flowing curves, ensuring that the surface will eventually feel silky smooth once sanded. Each chisel stroke feels like a conversation between me and the wood. With every tap of the mallet, the shape begins to emerge, the wood slowly responding to the care and precision I'm putting into it. As the curves start to take shape, I step back and examine the form. There's something deeply satisfying about seeing the design unfold, especially when you know it's going to be a unique, handcrafted piece. Each imperfection in the wood adds character, and each stroke of the chisel brings the pot closer to life. This stage requires a lot of patience. Woodworking isn't a race, it's a journey. The more time and care I invest into the shaping, the more the wood begins to reveal its true beauty. Every grain, every knot, every tiny detail adds to the final product. Once the shaping is complete, the next step is sanding. This part is crucial as it will smooth the surface and bring out the natural beauty of the wood. I begin with a coarser grit sandpaper to remove any larger imperfections and then move to finer grits to get a silky smooth finish. The grain of the wood becomes more pronounced with each pass and the texture transforms from rough to soft. The smell of the sanded teak fills the air, it's earthy, grounding. As I sand, I think about the life this piece of wood will hold. Once finished, this flower pot will carry not just soil and flowers, but memories, and it will live on for many years. It's a reminder that beauty can come from the most unexpected places. But we're not done yet. The finishing process is what truly brings the piece to life. I've got a special blend of beeswax and linseed oil that I'm going to apply to the surface. This finish will protect the wood, enhance its grain, and give it a rich, glossy sheen. It's a slow, deliberate process, but it's worth every moment. The finish soaks into the wood, deepening the color and making the texture stand out even more. As I rub the finish into the surface, I can already see the wood coming to life. The grain pops with a rich, golden glow, and the knots in the wood, once just imperfections, now look like part of the wood's story, beautiful, unique, and full of character. Once the oil and wax are applied, the transformation is almost complete. The piece feels alive, and I can already picture it in its final form, sitting proudly in a living room or on a windowsill, holding vibrant flowers that will continue to grow and flourish, just as this flower pot did. When you take a step back and look at the finished piece, you realize that it's more than just a flower pot. It's a work of art. It's a testament to the power of craftsmanship, patience, and a deep connection to nature. Every time I look at it, I'll be reminded of the journey it took to get here, from the reclaimed piece of wood to the final, elegant vessel that now holds life. When you take a step back and look at the finished piece, you realize that it's more than just a flower pot. It's a work of art. It's a testament to the power of craftsmanship, patience, and a deep connection to nature. Every time I look at it, I'll be reminded of the journey it took to get here, from the reclaimed piece of wood to the final, elegant vessel that now holds life. Welcome back. Now that we've started shaping our flower pot, let's continue the journey. In this segment, we're going to dive deeper into the details, adding the finishing touches that will bring this piece to life. So grab your tools and let's get started. We've got the basic shape of the flower pot, but we need to make it a bit more elegant. The design calls for soft, gentle curves, and right now we need to refine those edges. We don't want sharp corners. Instead, we're aiming for that classic, smooth curve that feels organic and timeless. I'm using a chisel here to gently carve away excess wood. The goal is to make the sides of the pot flow smoothly from top to bottom with a slight taper at the base. Each cut is deliberate. We want the design to feel like it's been shaped by nature itself. As I work, I stop frequently to assess the shape. It's all about patience and precision. Once the rough cuts are done, I move to sanding. Using a random orbital sander, I smooth out the surface. Sanding is critical because it removes any tool marks and gives the pot a polished look. You can see the grain of the wood starting to shine through, which is exactly what we want, a refined, smooth finish. The next step is to focus on the base of the pot. A stable base is essential for a flower pot to prevent it from tipping over. I cut a piece of wood for the base, ensuring it fits snugly inside the flower pot. The base should not only be a tight fit, but it also needs to be perfectly level. I use a saw to carefully cut the base to the correct size. After cutting, I dry fit it into the pot to make sure it's the right size. Once satisfied, I apply wood glue along the edge and press the base firmly into place. While the glue sets, I make sure to wipe away any excess so it doesn't dry on the surface. After about 30 minutes, the glue should be dry enough to continue. I take this time to smooth out any rough spots along the base, ensuring the connection between the base and the pot is seamless. One of the most important elements of a flower pot is drainage. Without proper drainage, your plant's roots can drown from sitting in water. To avoid that, we need to drill several holes at the bottom of the pot to allow excess water to escape. I carefully measure the spacing of the holes to ensure they're evenly distributed. Then, using a drill and a 1/4-inch drill bit, I make clean, precise holes around the base. This ensures that the water can flow freely and prevent any standing water in the pot. After drilling the holes, I check for any splinters or rough edges around them. I use a small file to smooth them out, ensuring they don't damage the plant roots or the soil. Now, it's time to give this flower pot a protective coating. For this project, I'm using a combination of beeswax and linseed oil. The beeswax creates a durable, water-resistant finish that helps protect the wood, while the linseed oil brings out the natural color and grain of the teak. I apply the finish with a soft cloth, rubbing it gently into the wood. As I apply the wax and oil mixture, you can immediately see the wood coming to life. The grain deepens and the rich tones of the teak start to shine through. This is one of my favorite steps because you can really see the transformation from a raw piece of wood to a finished, polished piece of art. The finish doesn't just protect the pot, it also gives it a smooth, matte appearance. This means it won't be too shiny, but it will still have a beautiful, polished look that enhances the natural beauty of the wood. I work the finish in slowly, ensuring every surface is evenly coated. With the finish applied and drying, I take a step back and admire the piece. But before we're done, I make sure the pot is ready for its future as a plant holder. I check the drainage holes again to ensure they're completely clear and that no glue has seeped into them. I also run my hands over the surface of the pot, making sure there are no rough patches left. If I find any, I quickly smooth them out with some extra sanding. The goal is for the surface to feel silky smooth to the touch. Every edge, every corner should feel flawless. I take the time to inspect the base as well. It's crucial that the base is level and securely attached. I check for any wobble by gently placing the pot on a flat surface. If it sits perfectly flat, then it's ready for its final test to hold a plant. And either you have it. The flower pot is complete. It's a beautiful, functional piece that will hold life in the form of plants or flowers. The wood's natural beauty is brought to the forefront by the finish, and the drainage holes ensure that whatever you plant in this pot will have the perfect environment to thrive. And crafting a piece like this is a process of patience, attention to detail, and love for the craft. From shaping the curves to adding the perfect finish, every step was taken with care to ensure that the flower pot isn't just a container, but a work of art. Here we are, folks. The flower pot is complete. And what a transformation it's been. From a simple block of wood to a beautifully shaped and finished piece. This journey has been all about care, patience, and the craft. Now, let's take a final look at the finished flower pot, and I'll walk you through the last steps of the process. As you can see, the shape of the flower pot has really come together. The curves are smooth, and the transition from the top to the base feels organic. This step was all about getting the perfect balance. Not too harsh, but just enough taper to give it that classic flower pot look. I've made sure that every corner is rounded and every curve is gently flowing. It's the small details that make a big difference. This pot will not only hold plants, but also add a touch of elegance to any space it's placed in. One thing to note is how the wood grain has come to life. We used teak for this project, and as we polished it, the natural beauty of the grain started to shine through. It gives the piece character and warmth. Exactly what you want in a flower pot. Let's take a moment to focus on the base of the flower pot. The base plays a crucial role, not just in aesthetics, but also in functionality. It needs to be stable and strong enough to support the weight of the pot, along with the plants and soil. I made sure the base was perfectly fitted into the bottom of the pot. The fit is snug with no gaps, ensuring the pot is solid and well supported. I also made sure that it's level so the pot will sit evenly on any surface. If the base isn't properly aligned, the whole pot can become wobbly, and we don't want that. I placed the flower pot on a flat surface to check if it wobbles. Thankfully, it's perfectly level, and the base is securely attached. This is a critical step because the last thing you want is for your flower pot to tip over when you add soil and a plant. Now comes the final touch, the finish. A beautiful flower pot is nothing without the right finish. It not only enhances the wood's color and grain, but also protects the wood from moisture and wear. For this pot, I used a combination of beeswax and linseed oil. I applied the mixture generously with a soft cloth, rubbing it in circles to ensure it covered every inch of the wood. The finish brings out the warm, amber tones of the teak, and as I work the finish into the wood, I can already see the surface becoming silky smooth. The beeswax helps create a protective layer that resists water and dirt, while the linseed oil penetrates deep into the wood, nourishing it and enhancing its natural color. This finish is exactly what a flower pot needs to withstand the elements while still looking elegant. As we all know, drainage is one of the most important features of a flower pot. Without proper drainage, the water will collect at the bottom and potentially cause root rot. To avoid this, I drilled several holes into the base of the pot. These holes ensure that any excess water will flow out, keeping the plant's roots healthy and happy. I made sure the holes were evenly spaced and large enough to allow plenty of water to drain. After drilling, I smoothed the edges of the holes to prevent any rough spots that could damage the plant roots. The final touch is to clean the area around the holes, ensuring that no glue or debris remains. The pot is now ready to perform its job, holding a beautiful plant while ensuring that excess water flows freely through the drainage holes. It's amazing how such a small detail can make such a big difference in the health of your plants. Once the finish is applied and the drainage holes are clear, I let the pot dry for a while. It's essential to let the finish cure fully before placing anything inside. After the pot has dried completely, I give it one final inspection. This is when I check for any small imperfections I might have missed earlier. I run my hand over the surface one more time, feeling for any rough patches. I want the flower pot to feel as smooth as possible to the touch, especially the edges, which should be gentle and rounded. If I find any imperfections, I smooth them out with a bit more sanding. The goal is perfection in every detail. The flower pot is now a fully functional and beautifully finished piece, ready for its next chapter to hold life in the form of your favorite flowers or plants. The woodwork is solid, the finish is perfect, and the drainage is well taken care of. What's left is to admire the craftsmanship and enjoy the process of growing something in it. Now that everything is complete, let's take a moment to admire the finished product. It's a simple yet elegant piece made with love and skill. Every part of the process, from shaping the wood to applying the final coat of finish, has contributed to creating something truly beautiful. This flower pot will not only be a home for plants, but also a statement piece in any room. It's a reminder that with a little time, effort, and the right techniques, you can create something functional and beautiful from scratch. Thank you for following along on this journey. I hope you found this project inspiring and that it motivates you to try your own woodworking. There's nothing like the feeling of making something with your own hands, and I'm sure your own creations will be just as beautiful as this one.